everyone. Welcome to the New Brunswick Board of Education public meeting. I'll begin by reading the opening announcement. Adequate public notice of this meeting was provided by the Secretary of the Board on May 10, 2021 to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, and the Clerk of the City of New Brunswick. The time and location of this meeting and all meetings of this body are posted in City Hall, 78 Byron Street, New Brunswick. Roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz.
Here.
Mrs. Seawood.
Here.
Mrs. Solis.
Here.
Mr. Spencer.
Here.
Ms. Varela. Ms. Sevilla.
Here.
Dr. Caldwell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Dr. Johnson, please rise. And Dr. Johnson, please lead us in the flag salute.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A reminder, the next regular monthly Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 21st. Can't believe this year's going. 2021, beginning at 7 p.m., right here in the New Brunswick High School in the auditorium. Mr. Janro, if you would turn it over to you to discuss the process for
Thank you, Dr. Caldwell.
board members.
So as the board knows, we have 2 vacancies on the Board of Education. We asked for prospective candidates to send in a resume and letter of interest to Dr. Caldwell by the 29th, I believe, of October. We received 4 candidates that registered their intent to sit on the board. They have all been forwarded to the Board of Education for your review. And at this point in time, the process will be if any board member would like to make a nomination of one of those 4 board members, we would then have a second. And if that person has a second, we would then have a discussion and then a vote. So do any of the board members wish to nominate any of the 4 candidates that were received?
Are there any nominations of candidates?
And to be clear, we received nominations from Ivan Adorno, Jacinia Hernandez, Linda Stork, and Lakeisha Thomas.
Are there any nominations?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Yesenia Hernandez.
Senior Hernandez? Ms.
Second.
Hernandez, there's a second. Roll call, please.
Okay, so before roll call,
Discussion first.
any discussion?
Any discussion? So it's been,
So we have a motion by Mrs. Seawood to nominate Jacinia Hernandez, a second by Mr. Ortiz. Is there any board members that have any discussion on the matter?
but I will say I serve on the Housing Authority with her, and she is actually chair, and has done an outstanding job. She's very thorough. I know many of us have known her. She's run for school board before, so I'm very positive feeling about what she can add to the district. Any other comments, discussion? All right.
Okay, I'll take a vote.
Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood?
Yes.
Mrs. Solis?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla?
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Motion approved. Congratulations, Ms. Hernandez. You're officially appointed as a board member, and to also point out that tomorrow I will contact, if another candidate is appointed, contact them tomorrow, swear them in the oath of office, get them new board member materials, and then they'll officially start that. Okay?
Start on the 21st of December.
I would like to make a nomination as well
Okay.
for Mr. Ivan Adorno.
Ivan Adorno, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I actually have known Mr. Adorno for quite some time, and I think that his contribution, I think that he loves the children of New Brunswick, and I think that we actually went to high school together, so
Oh, boy.
yes. So I think his contributions will be greatly for sport.
I think Mr. Adorno, I know for a He's very, very well known in the community. He has ties with our city administration in terms of, he knows, by working at YSS, a lot of people, has a lot of contacts, knows our students very well, and knows the parents, knows the community of those kids. So I think he'd be a good fit on the board at this time.
Thank you. I've known him for a while, and he was at Woodrow Wilson when Ashley was there, and did a wonderful job with the after-school program. Other comments?
Also feel the same way. Been very committed to not just only the YSS, but the adults also. He has been before throughout the community, and he's an alumni of the school. So he understands some of the dynamics that we go through with YSS. This will be an asset to the board of education.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer, Ms. Sevilla,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved. So congratulations, Mr. Adorno. Also, I will note out that these two board members that have been appointed tonight will be on the board until the next regular school board election in April, because they're filling terms that do end in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General. Item number 4, the minutes. October 19, 2021. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay, roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Wonderful. Item number 5, the superintendent's report. Dr. Aubrey A. Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening. For the month of November, we have enrolled 9,828 students. There were 4 cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. We had 97 suspensions. Our staff attendance is at 93%. Our student attendance is at 91%. For the month of October, there were 6 positive cases for employees, and there were 10 positive cases for students. In June of 2021, we shared our preliminary safe return plan for review and input from stakeholders. We are committed to continuing to inform our school community as we make changes to our plan. We received a total of 303 responses from parents, students, staff, and community partners. 145 of those responses were from staff members, 144 responses were from parents and guardians, 13 were from students, and 5 were from community partners. Our updated safe return plan is being submitted for formal approval by the board this evening, reflecting on the following major updates. The development, number 1, the development of an emergency virtual instructional plan, updates to our instruction plan, updates to our wellness plan, the implementation of Executive Order 253, which was signed by Governor Murphy, which requires unvaccinated employees to be tested at a minimum of once to twice each week, and the development of our COVID-19 plan to minimize the risk of transmission. We will continue to implement safety guidelines and protocols recommended by the CDC and Department of Health in conjunction with our district policies, and will adjust accordingly to any community COVID-19 transmission as well as vaccinations. New Brunswick Public Schools is partnering with the Middlesex County Office of Health Services to provide free COVID-19 vaccines for students ages 5 through 11 on Thursday, November 18th from 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. at Red Shore Elementary School. The Middlesex County Office of Health and Services will be administering the vaccines. Parents and guardians must bring ID identification for registration purposes only, and walk-ins will be accepted. Our pre-registration link has been shared with all parents and guardians via our Talking Point application, via backpacks, which we should be going home tomorrow, as well as they can access it on our district website. Lastly, the district is looking to attract quality substitutes to ensure that we have classroom coverage in the event of a teaching absence. Our substitute pay rate has increased from $125 to $150 per day for daily substitutes, and for long-term substitutes from $150 to $175 per day. Additionally, we have added a monetary stipend as an incentive effective November 1st to the number of days worked over a rolling 12-month period. I definitely would like to congratulate Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Adano to the board, and I look forward to working with you both. Thank you, and that concludes my remark.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's report? Second. Roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving on to item number 6, the student representative report, Ms. Ashley M. Caldwell.
Hello, my name is Ashley Caldwell, and I will be presenting the Student Representative Report. On October 28th, fall conferences took place at MBHS. Families were given the choice to attend the conferences in person or in virtual meeting sessions. The virtual meeting option provided flexibility to help with busy work schedules, and many individuals took advantage of the opportunity to meet online. Throughout the evening, conversations focused on students' academic progresses and many other topics. On November 6th, many students turned out for the SAT exam with COVID-19 protocols set in place at the high school campus. On November 10th, over 10 high schools in the Middlesex County area participated in this event held at South River Middle School. 12 to 14 students were asked to attend from each school. Day of Dialogue is a student-centered forum focused on bringing high school students from diverse backgrounds together to promote conversation, awareness, and action around issues of race, gender, and class. The day-long event was very insightful, informative, and eye-opening for all that attended. While it is tough to speak on many of these issues, it is a must that we engage in courageous conversations if we want things to change. Day of Dialogue provided a safe and respectable space for the students to engage with one another and speak on these tough issues. On November 11th, members of our JROTC program were presented with the opportunity to participate in the New Brunswick Veterans Day Parade. Joined by Mayor Cahill and City Council, our MBHS students paid tribute to local veterans by recognizing the sacrifices made during times of war and peace. Fall sports. The boys soccer team finished 13-8-1 this year. They had an extremely successful season, making it to the semifinals, losing to Monroe, who eventually won the tournament. A week later, they faced off against Monroe again and won 3-4 in the state tournament. The boys made it to the semifinals again for the state tournament to fall to Freehold Township, who won the sectional championship as well. Isaac Chavez made All-Red Division, and Joseph Juarez made #1 overall All-Conference and All-Division. The girls soccer team qualified for the first time to the GMC and state tournaments led by Marilyn Cano, who made All-White Division, and senior captain Salma Ibrahim, who also made All-White Division while recording her 1,000th career save in the state playoffs. Cross country improved tremendously, having 3 student athletes break the 20-minute mark in their 5K times. The boys placed second in their division lead, led by junior Romeo Mendoza. The boys football team qualified for states as well and lost a tough matchup against the #1 ranked team, finishing with a team record of 4-6. For the first time, the girls volleyball team also had a first-round win in the GMC tournament against Timothy Christian in the GMC tournament and qualified for the state tournament for the first time as the 10th seed team. The girls tennis team, led by Ashley Caldwell, who finished 17-4 and received all-white division honors qualifying her for the state tournament. The team had an overall record of 12-6 with a division record of 6 wins, 6 losses, and undefeated 5-0 in non-conference matches. This concludes my student representative report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell, for that thorough report. We'll move on to the Facilities Committee report. Mr. Edward Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Facility Committee met last week following the items that were discussed in the meeting. the air conditioning at Lincoln School, Livingston, and Roosevelt schools. And I would say the air conditioning for Lincoln and Livingston School and most of Roosevelt schools is completed, with the exception of the auditorium and gym areas of Roosevelt School. A review and assessment is being performed on the air conditioning installation. Updates will be provided. Paul Robeson, third floor leakage. The School Development Authority realigned third floor windows to address leakage. Has been remediated, which appears to stop the leakage. We will continue to monitor, and updates will be provided next meeting. Regarding the Blanquita Valente Community School project, DMR Architects has reached completing the construction documents for owner final review. The final education approval was received from the Department of Education on August 18, 2021. As of October 9th, the NJDCA build review approvals have been released for structural steel and under slab plumbing work, fire protection, site and civil, footings and foundations, and the grease trap. Elevator plan reviews release was received on 8/16/2021, and partial electrical underground plan review was received on September 7, 2021. The treatment works approval was on August 11, 2021. The water main extension permit, August 20th, 21. Stormwater management plan review, conditional approval, August 20th, 2021. Delaware Raritan Canal Commission approval, September 15th, 2021. Full site soil erosion and sediment control plan approval was on September 20th, 21. All pre-construction remedial actions have been completed, including removal of all known contaminated soil and concrete from the site. Evacuation of contaminant materials included the removal of a total of 623 tons of PCB impacted or petroleum impacted concrete and soil, which equals 28 truckloads. Total was removed from the direction of the licensed site remediation professionals for this project. 25 truckloads of PCB impacted concrete and soil was evacuated June 28th through July 1st, 2021. This material was exported from the site July 6th through the 7th, 2021. 3 truckloads of petroleum impacted soil was evacuated June 28, 21 and exported July 17, 2021. Capping of the historic fill on site will occur during the building construction and site development phase. During preparation of the installation of the on-site job trailers, an existing underground water tank was encountered. Work is now ongoing to remove the tank, inspect the soils, and determine proper method to fill the hole. The job trailers are now scheduled to be delivered this week. Site demolition, clearing, and grade are continuing through the end of this month. Additionally, the silk fencing has been installed and grading control points set. On October 12th, special testing and inspection services was awarded to Atlantic Engineering Laboratories. Their service for inspection and testing of soils, compaction, rebar, and concrete are in the process of being scheduled. Excavation work for footings, foundation, and form work, including rebar and concrete, is occurring between November 2021 and January 2022, followed by site work utilities, under slab utilities, and slab on grade. The start of the structural steel erection is currently scheduled for April of 2022. Substantial completion of the school is still scheduled for August of 2023. That, Mr. President, concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer, for that very, very thorough report. Move on to the Athletic Committee report. Sophia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you guys heard some of the good news that Ms. Caldwell shared about some of the athletes. And I do have great news. All of our sports they made it to the GMC tournament. So I think that's definitely a round of applause. They all made it to the GMC tournaments, and I believe that we're gearing up now for the winter sports. I do want to mention something, because I think that often we don't hear when we hear about sports, we think it's just sports, right? We did receive a letter from one of the referees sharing some of his experience with the football team. And I just want to read a little bit of what was said on that email. It said, I wanted to let you know that the New Brunswick High School football team was the finest football team I've had the honor of working with for the last 10 years. So I wanted to talk about a little bit, just highlighting what a wonderful job the coaches that we have in New Brunswick are doing with the development, not just in the field, but also outside the field, right? That sports are not just sports. So thank you for all the coaches in this particular example, our football coach. So winter sports sign up have started. For the high school, we have 82 as of yesterday, and for the middle school, we have 56. We're gearing up and looking at some of the GPAs for our athletes as well, and the conversations about COVID protocols always being followed, as well as we have the majority of students already vaccinated, student athletes vaccinated. And we also will be sharing some news about spring season in the upcoming weeks. So thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a budget.
Oh, we do, yes. Can I please have a motion for a bank reconciliation?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood?
Yes.
Mrs. Solis?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer? Ms. Sevilla?
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Thank you for that great report. Item number 9, the Curriculum Policy Committee report. Mrs. Imra L. Seawood, chairperson.
Mr. President, members of the board, the curriculum policy. Can you hear me? Good. The Curriculum and Policy Committees met last week. We had 2 presentations. The first was a review of the additions to the 5-year preschool operational plan, the annual update. You might recall, I think during the spring, initial updates were made, and some additional updates were required to be submitted by November 16th, I believe, by today. So Ms. Parisi came in, gave us a update in terms of changes that were noted. Preschool instructional models, COVID-19 procedures, Department of Children and Families guidelines for preschool providers, early childhood department support, and continuity of instruction and coaching. Preschool intervention and referral support, family and community resources were also included in this updated report. And this updated plan is included on the consent agenda for this evening, so we can get board approval to submit it to the state as required. And just to add to Dr. Johnson's report on the safe return plan, we also took a look at it, and included the emergency virtual or remote instruction program that would only be implemented during a district closure lasting more than 3 consecutive school days due to a declared state of emergency, declared public health emergency, or a directive by the appropriate health agency or officer to institute a public health-related closure. And again, we looked at additional curricular resources that are available for instruction. The start of in-person extended school day and virtual tutoring programs have begun since October. I can't recall the date. The district is also participating in the DREAMS program, grounded in the Nurtured Heart approach model. DREAMS is an acronym for Developing Resiliency with Engaging Approaches to Maximize Success. And this is being utilized in the district. Tomorrow, we'll kick off the family and community engagement with the Parent University. Now, this is a virtual event and will take place from 6 to 7 p.m., provided in English and Spanish. This event will be led by Ms. Zaladon, our Family and Community Engagement Coordinator. She'll introduce the new team of family liaisons and their critical roles within this district. Because I think many times families aren't aware that we do have community liaisons, family liaisons. We reviewed all resolutions and approved them to be submitted for approval. They're again included on the consent agenda. We have 2 policies and 2 policies were revised and 1 new policy. We reviewed all 3. The new policy is mandated, so we recommend that it's approved on the first reading. And that is safety plan for healthcare settings in school buildings, COVID-19. Plan has policies and detailed procedures to minimize the risk of transmission of COVID-19 in accordance with OSHA's COVID-19 Emergency Temporary Standard, ETS. And there were 2 revisions. Earned sick leave, regulation number 1642, updated to address the statute's revised and new language, expanding the use of accrued sick leave. And policy number 3221, evaluation of teachers, now requires evaluation rubrics to be submitted to the Commissioner of Education by August 1st every year for approval by August 15th. So all 3 of these policies are included on the consent agenda, and the committee does recommend that we accept them on the first reading. And that concludes my report.
Did you receive a thorough report, as always? Moving on to item number 10. Moving on to item number 10, Educational Services Commission of New Jersey continues to do well with growing enrollment and actually renovating the special needs health facility that we have, as well as some other buildings. And so it's been a good year in spite of recovering from the pandemic. And New Brunswick is one of the largest users of services, as is Plainfield, so I'm proud to say that our students are doing very, very well. So with that, we'll move to item 12, the public comments. Rich, who's on our list?
Yeah, Dr. Caldwell, so there's two individuals who did register their intent within the 24 hours per the new policy. And then there's 3 individuals that came to the board meeting that signed up here at the board meeting.
Okay. So who are the two written names of the
So
two people
first is Charlie Crowder.
Mr. Crowdell here?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the board. Charles Cradaville. I'm from New Brunswick. I'm the editor of New Brunswick Today, community newspaper, available online at newbrunswicktoday.com. I want to start by saying sincerely congratulations to the 2 new members. I do know them to be good people who care about New Brunswick, and I wish them all the best. There's a new policy that went into effect that makes it harder for people to speak at these meetings, as you just mentioned. You're now requiring 24 hours advance notice. You're also limiting the amount of time that people get to speak by 40%. Whose idea was it to make these changes?
It's a board-approved policy.
Whose idea was it?
I answered the board-approved policy. The board voted for it.
I'm well aware. So there was a committee that approved it first. And at that committee, someone must have suggested it. Who suggested it? Whose idea was it?
Charlie, I gave you the answer. It's a board-approved policy. That's all I'm telling you.
Okay, so you're going to all take the heat for this one. Why did you make these changes?
We thought it was in the best interest of the community.
It's in the best interest of the community for it to be harder to speak here and for the public to get less time to speak here. How is that in the best interest of the community? Did any community members tell you that they wanted this?
Actually, I did speak to some community members who did say that some of the people who come up every week spend a lot of time berating the board without any substance. That's one of the conversations I actually did have.
Okay. And for the record, you don't meet every week. You meet once a month. And, I'll remind the board and the public that we used to get up to 10 minutes to speak at this microphone. You'd give 5 minutes for open questions and 5 minutes for resolutions. There's nothing wrong with that. You just didn't like hearing from the public, so you made it harder for us to speak. And now you're making it even harder for us to speak. And I'm going to urge you to follow in your colleagues' footsteps and resign your seat on this board. As the saying goes, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. What happened at the last meeting, where security guards bullied a city resident with a disability and tried to coerce them into sitting down, even though that would cause them pain, that was just plain wrong. And it's unfortunately emblematic of the dictatorial approach that this board has taken under you and Ms. Solis. These security guards should focus more on the violence in these schools instead of harassing and bullying people who come to speak at these meetings. Shame on you, sir. Resign.
Linda Stork.
Good evening, my name is Linda Stork. Congratulations, first of all, to Mr. Mendez and Mr. Adorno.
So just speak up, Ms. Stork.
Yes, did you hear what I said? Congratulations to Ms. Mendez and Mr. Adorno. Okay. Now, I did have some questions. I am obviously not in favor of us having less time to speak and having to sign up 24 hours in advance. It's just hard to remember that. You know, because it's a change. If it had always been that way, it wouldn't be so hard, but I came within a half hour of not being on the list to speak tonight. So the question that I had was about the CARES Act money and the other extra money that we got for the coronavirus. I was trying to find, is there a place where we could see that money separately, how it was spent? Because in the budget, I found the line items for showing that income, but then I can't tell. Like, for example, I was looking specifically for were more mental health counselors hired for the schools. But I couldn't figure out how to figure that out.
Mr. General, is there a separate line item for the CARES Act money in the budget or not?
Yes, but you wouldn't see in the budget because all that money came in after the budget was approved and submitted to the Department of Education.
Right, but then it appears as income in the revised budget.
The initial CARES Act money is on the budget in the revenue section, and it would be in the expense section. But the ESSER 2 money and the ARP money would not be on that budget document on the web.
So in the expense section, it can be identified which money was the extra money? That's what I couldn't figure out.
I have to look. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if it's on there and you received it, it would be in both sections. But so
Right, but
there's a line in there that says other federal grants, so it wouldn't be lumped in with the other. It may not be where it's a standalone by itself.
Okay, because it would be convenient for us to know. For example, I've seen newspaper articles saying that certain districts spend a certain percentage of their money on getting kids caught up, and a certain percentage on HVAC systems, a certain percentage on things that were not directly related, which apparently it doesn't have to be, according to the guidelines. But it would just make me curious where our district stands. What did the percentages look like for how the money was allocated? And also, is 90 a normal number of suspensions?
We've gone over time by about 30 seconds, so.
Well, I wasn't talking all of that time.
Thank you very much. No, Richard said there's some other people who signed up who didn't know the policy.
Yeah, we did have 3 people who came and signed up. Would you like to allow them to speak?
Who were the 3 who signed up first?
So we have Carlos Ramirez, Selena Pastrana, and Teresa Vivar.
Is that the same issue?
Carlos Ramirez wanted to speak about policy changes,
Okay.
safety and security. Ms. Pastrana wanted to speak about nurses' complaints.
Okay.
And then Ms. Vivar wanted to speak about, I can't read it all, but youth at the schools,
Okay. Right.
supporting youth at the schools.
Yeah, so since the policy was just changed, well, we should, and again, it's the discretion of the chair to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
if we could take that.
Yeah, you have discretion, Mr. Chairman, to waive the rules, especially since we just changed the policy.
Yeah, so why don't we waive the rules, and Mr. Ramirez, I guess you're first.
What a nice guy.
Again, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, thank you for letting me speak, even though it is your job to listen to the students and the people of this community, whether you like it or not. I think that 3 minutes limiting to people that actually care about this school and care about what's going on, not only in the political side, but also in the educational and public safety side. People who come less than 12 people, or sometimes even 3, or just one person standing in this room, limiting their time to only 3 minutes. I think that's absurd. I don't know who you spoke with in this community that says that limiting that time is the best, when rarely you get even 30 or 40 or 50 people like other places that I've seen. So 3 minutes is just absurd. I do wanted to mention also regarding the public safety at the school. I mean, the safety in the school, I think it's going down the rabbit hole. I think that the new principal is trying his best to control the students at this place, but it's simply just not working out. I've seen several posts throughout different social medias where they are calling the principal a clown for failing to provide safety to the school, and how even staff don't even listen to how he's administrating things at the school. I've seen also different countless students get beat up at this school, and many of those ending up at hospital when parents are notified. They're being told that their kids is only at the hospital and not even the reason of why he was there. Those students are even written up as bullying or harassment, and I think that there's just more than 5 incidents that go throughout the mentionings that were brought today. There are other issues as well within faculty not providing information to students of what their resources in these schools are or outside of the school. And I think that some of the issues when board members like yourself bully the community into 3 minutes and limiting what they do to disabled people and laughing at them and forcing them to sit down, I think that's very mean. And that's why some of these teachers think they can do that to other students by intimidating them and allowing that this school go down the rabbit hole each year. It's always getting worse and worse, and I think, as my colleague said, I think it's time for you to resign as well. Thank you.
Who's next, please?
Dr. Caldwell, I'll call Selena Pastrana to the microphone.
Hello, Selena.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, my name is Selena Pastrana. I'm here to talk about nurses' complaints. On Friday, school day, I unexpectedly got my cycle early on my period, and then I pushed through to my class biology 3-4 to see if I could push through my cramps, but it got really badly. I went to the nurse's office. They gave me a heating pad and lay down, and yet almost 30 minutes passed and I was still hurt, and it was getting even more and worse. And then the nurse told me if I was feeling well, but while I was telling her it was still bad and got really worse, she did not listen. She took out my heating pad and she was escorting me forcefully, telling me to leave. And I was telling her I was even worse, and she was not listening, and she was still telling me to go back to class, knowing I was really badly in condition. And she was just not understandable, and she just kept telling me to go back to class when I was very in bad condition. Then I started tearing up more because I was in bad condition, and she was still not hearing me out. And she was still escorting me to go back to class. I went back to class, my teacher saw I was still struggling, and then I had to contact my mom when I didn't have time to tell the nurse to contact my mom or anything because I was escorted very forcefully and fast. And there was not that many students for I could be kicked out like that, and she was still not listening. And then once my mom finally came, I went to the attendance office, and they told me why I did not go to the nurse. I said I did, and they said they were so confused when I went back to class and why I was still hurt. And also going to the attendance office, I did throw up 3 times, and everybody was so confused why I wasn't still in the nurse, and why I went back to class in bad condition. And I heard many complaints like that the nurses are being very rude, and they do not listen to the students. There's no communication, and they just keep forcefully telling students to go back to class when they're in very bad condition. There is no communication, there is no understandable moments with the nurses, and they're very They're very bad. They keep on giving attitudes with many students. When there is like females telling them that they need more than one pad, they're saying, why don't you get more? Why don't you buy more? Why don't you take a bill for coming to class? But also, as what I stated, that my cycle came earlier than I expected. That could happen, and I did not know it was gonna come on Friday. And they just expect us to know when it will come and take a pill as if, well, we control the future, but we can't. They are not understandable, and we need more understandable nurses, and we need to be heard more.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the high school? New Brunswick High School? Yes, thanks. Now, I understand staff did meet with you today to discuss this very issue. We thank you for bringing it before us, and we will we'll investigate and address it as needed. Thank you very much. Rich, who's the final person?
Yes, the final person is Teresa Vivar.
Hello, Teresa.
Hola, ¿cómo están? How are you, everybody? So glad to see you and to see many of you here. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here again. As you know me, President, I'm a person that has been here in the community for a long time and trying to create programs for youth. Really, we need to work together. Not only me and other organizations, but we're gonna find out a way to bring parents into these conversations. We need to make sure that they understand the core responsibility that we have with the youth. What's going on, if you heard one person, she has to feel empowered in order to come up here and speak. They're afraid as students to, raise their voice for whatever is happening out there. And I hear all the students that come to us for organization complaining about being bullied on buses, that being treated by all the students, that the only solution they find is violence. What's going on? How we can work together to ensure that these messages are not out there. How we can work together to ensure that everybody feels welcome to this auditorium, to these conversations, and make sure that we send this message to the youth. I'm worried, seriously worried, because the violence out there in the streets is growing. So this is no difference between what's going on or what kind of education, what kind of environment we are together putting for them, that they think the violence is the only solution when we don't find somebody that we don't agree with. We gotta put the example. We gotta make sure that they see us as a person that we're able to communicate, to build these kind of conversations, with whether we agree on things or whether we're not, we're living in the same situation. We have to build that kind of community. So, congratulations to the new board members. We're here to work with you. I think both of us are bilingual. Both of you are. Please cooperate with us. Because honestly, there is not enough money allocated for some programs that we know in the past was in existence in different schools in New Brunswick, and those are gone. And proof is, somebody like I was hearing some type of research and resolutions of certain things in education, that if a kid has something where they can place all that energy and learn something, at the end the future might change, and though they will not end in violence. We have to make sure we create more programs like that. You have to work with us. I came here many times requesting that, and nobody pay attention to it. And I think not only me, you gotta work with me, you gotta make sure that we as directors of these nonprofits collaborate with you, but also parents, we need them here. Even if we don't like what they wanna say, we need them so they can teach the youth that they can do the same. We need the youth to get involved, to learn. And I know that you are here as a student too. I hear you. Thank you so much for all the work that writing and building the report. We need students, seriously. And we need to pay attention how we're going to communicate, how we're going to collaborate. It's your responsibility and our responsibility to work with you too. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much. That's the list. Rich?
Yes, sir.
That's good. Good. I'll give my president's report. One of the things that's very important is to understand that the board is very connected and committed to the community. What some people believe is that coming here, standing at the microphone, is going to make change. Understand that the regulations, the state regulations, are that we are a policy-making board. So when you come here and say we have operational problems, this board is not responsible for that. So when someone doesn't go to the superintendent and say, I have a particular problem, and say, I need help operationally, that's where the superintendent is. So coming here, grandstanding, talking for 10 minutes is not going to make change. Change only comes with the superintendent, and so it's important for the community to know. And you have some people who are in the community who are misleading folks, who are saying, come up here, we want to fill this auditorium. We are policy. Every school board in New Jersey makes policy. Now, we'll make long-term policy if the operations aren't working, but it's important to understand how the process works. And the process works in the community. The process works working in the schools. The process works working and mentoring students directly, not grandstanding. And so when you hear people come up here and say, oh, you're limiting the time, no, there's plenty of time to actually make real change. And we're about real change. And this district has made all sorts of changes that have really benefited the students. Now, to address the issue of violence, we are living in a very violent society. I do a lot of work with other school boards around the country. There is violence in every major urban school district in the country and suburban school districts. People are they're coming out of a pandemic. They're skipping grades, meaning that they weren't in school because of the pandemic. So there's an anger out there. And so we're talking more and more about social and emotional needs, and our investments are in that because we know that's critical for the development of our kids and the safety of our community. So if you want to talk about what's going on here, it's important to work in the schools directly. This board meeting is not going to change anything. You can yell and scream and pray that I get hurt. That isn't going to change anything. So wake up, folks. Understand that what happens in the schools. So that is so critical because we want change just as much as you do. But change doesn't happen right here. Change happens when you deal with the grassroots. So thank you so very much for coming out. We love to see people here. But we want to hear, if there's a real problem, we want to hear through some of the administrators, through the superintendent's office, so we can address them. This should not be the first time that we hear about an issue at a board meeting. So again, I thank you for your concerns. Let's talk to people. I know some of the concerns that are brought up have been dealt with or are being dealt with in the schools. So folks, we're in it together. This is about all of the kids, all of the teachers, the parents, and the community in New Brunswick. And you're either on the team or you're just going to complain about the team. So let's be on the same team and let's make a difference together. Thank you very much. Item number 13, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? Is there a second? Okay, roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz. Mrs. Seawood. Mrs. Solis. Mr. Spencer. Ms. Sevilla.
Yes, abstaining on the
Z as in zebra. So noted. Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 14, the Finance Committee report. I make a motion to accept it as presented. Second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz. Mrs. Seawood.
Yes.
Mrs. Solis.
Yes.
Mr. Spencer.
Yes, I abstain on page 6 and 17.
Page 6 and 17. So noted. Ms. Sevilla.
Yes, abstaining on page 24.
Page 24. So noted. Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 15, resolution for closed session. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6, provides that certain matters of a public body may be discussed in closed session, and whereas the Board of Education intends to discuss matters as follows: personnel matters, matters of attorney-client privilege. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforesaid subject shall be discussed in closed session by this Board of Education administrative staff, and the minutes of said closed session discussion will be made available to the public when the reasons for the non-disclosure in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act no longer exist. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood.
Yes.
Mrs. Solis.
Yes.
Mr. Spencer.
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla.
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved. We're in closed session.